Alrighty then, we're live again from Nearsoft's Mexico City offices, and welcome to another episode of Dojo Live, where we meet with experts, tech experts like you. All right, today we have actually we have a very interesting team of experts. We have like a panel of experts. We have three of them actually, and today we have the KiteDesk team. We have. Jared Rodriguez, who's the CTO and founder, Jack Kennedy, Vice President of Product, and James Perro, UX UI designer. James, please feel free to correct me if I just for some reason did I pronounce it correctly, James?
That's good enough.
Perro, okay, great. So I appreciate you being here, and also I want to thank my teammate Misael, who he's going to be our co-host today, and he's in our headquarters way in Hermosillo, that 1,500 miles away from here. Thank you, Misael, for being here, and thank you, everyone, for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Okay, and today we're going to be talking about something that I was mentioning that it's kind of intriguing because it has many variables, but I'm not going to do the talking because the topic. The experts, I'm going to let the experts do the talking. And today's topic is data-driven enterprise solutions, a generational shift in business tools. And, okay, without further ado, I'm going to pass on the mic to Jared, Jack, and James. Guys, why did you choose this particular topic? Let's start by there, by that. Why did you choose this particular topic?
So, this is Jack Kennedy, by the way. So,
there you go.
When we thought about the topic that we wanted to cover, we thought, what's sort of interesting in terms of an intersection of the way KiteDesk has gone to market. And so, there's a few areas of focus, but one of the things that we do is we provide a sales tool for sort of a new class of salesperson, normally known as a sales development representative or an SDR. And increasingly, this type of salesperson is somebody who's relatively fresh out of college. Oftentimes, they're early in their career, and they have a different set of expectations in terms of the user experience that they expect. And they also have less patience for having to switch between different old enterprise applications to be able to get information. So switching from email to social to maybe their CRM or some other data provider. And so that's a large part of what motivated KiteDesk to come to market with the product that we have, which integrates all of those systems and delivers them in a new user experience. So our UI is primarily focused on providing something that's really, really beneficial, super fast to use, clean and easy to understand for that target audience. So on the back end, there's a big data play. And so we thought that subject sort of wraps up what KiteDesk does and some of our motivations for being.
It's really also, I would add to that, this is really the, if you look at data integration, a lot of us take it for granted nowadays. You're used to seeing multiple types of data in a single context. If your context is you're trying to sell to someone, then what you want to see when you're trying to take that action to sell to them is data that usually comes from multiple places. You'd see emails that you've exchanged with them. You'd see CRM information that might be there. You'd see demographic and firmographic information. And really the way the world works today for many smart business applications is data from all over the place presented the way the user needs it when the user needs it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. And which leads me into asking both of you, you spoke specifically about users, and you also mentioned that when you chose your topic that you have approached building tools for a new generation of users. Why did you call it a new generation of users? Where's the difference between a new generation and the older generation?
Well, most of us on this call are old guys, so in our 40s or above, somewhere around that general vicinity. Maybe not.
So, I'll be 50 this year, so.
But when you look at what millennials have grown up with and what younger generations of users have grown up with, it's always been data in hand. You've always had a smartphone. You've always had a device right there. and you've always had access to all the data that you need. Then think about where we were when we graduated from college. You didn't have that. I mean, you didn't even have a smartphone, much less data at your fingertips. And so the expectations of users in kind of the millennial generation is very, very different than it ever was for us at that same age, for middle-aged folks at that same time.
Yeah. So you can think of the old enterprise technologies as being primarily geared for the Atari generation, and we're primarily geared for the Xbox generation, maybe. So
Okay.
really, our users have grown up with games that are highly polished, social apps that are highly polished, and our goal is to deliver enterprise applications of similar quality.
Okay. Absolutely.
Hey guys, this is Misael. I'm UX designer here at Nearsoft, and I'm really curious to know about your user research process. Can you guys please elaborate a little bit more the process that you follow to understand your audience?
Sure. James, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So we have a product manager who normally does some outreach with our customers, with a select handful of trusted customers, as well as our own internal sales team that we can go to directly, because our internal sales team are our users. And that product manager will go and talk to them, see what kind of pain points they have in their processes and their daily workflow. And they will try to distill that down into a handful of items that we can then take and apply in our software to better facilitate them doing what they need to do. And then from there, once we have that set of requirements, we'll come up with our basic design. We'll start to flesh that out a little bit more, and then we'll present that back to that same core set of users to get their feedback on that interface to see if that facilitates their needs. And then we'll iterate on that just a handful of times until we're at something that does what they need it to do as good as it needs to be done. And then from there, it goes over to the development team.
So James, what is it you use for the clickable prototypes now? It's like Atomic IO or?
Yeah, so the design application that we're using right now is called Atomic.io. It's a web-based prototyping and design tool, very similar to Sketch.
I would add one other piece to what James said, which is even before we get to that kind of prototyping piece, one of the things that our marketing team has done, and in particular our chief marketing officer, is put together kind of a psych profile of our users, of what our target users are. So I mentioned millennials earlier. That actually factors in pretty critically into kind of how we evaluate what we build and how we build it for them. What is it that millennials are used to? Most of the people in this SDR role that Jack defined earlier, most of them are younger folks. They're right out of school. They're millennials. They have certain expectations. They have certain views of the world and data. What are their drivers? What are the things that incent them to do work, and how do they view rewards? And so a lot of that kind of is the starting point for even how we begin looking at the product, and then it filters into what James described there.
And from a design approach, we kind of take a lot of cues from social platforms and video games, for instance, as far as different mechanisms for displaying data.
Cool. So how do you guys measure the impact that your product has with your audience, in this case millennials? I mean, how do you guys make sure that you are accomplishing the goals that you have for them?
We have. So we've gone through and done case studies. We've actually gone through a series of analysis steps where we look at the work that's being done as a part of this role, and we look at the way that the users are doing it today, and we time it. Even for our internal hiring process, when we start a new salesperson, we actually make them go through a sales process without the benefit of our tool, and we record their experience of how long it takes them to do that. And then we re-record and we retime that same experience, those same steps, using our tool. And then we publish that information as a part of the case studies that we run.
And once the tool is actually rolled out in production, part of what we do when we build the tool is every action that the user takes on the client, we actually record those actions. What is it we're using? Zoho, I think, is...
Yeah, just a quick reporting tool.
A reporting tool it tracks everything that a user does in the app. They clicked this button. they went to this screen, they took these actions, and all of that actually feeds into a big reporting tool that we use to kind of do analytics of what are users clicking the most, what are users doing the most, how much time do they spend in certain sections of the app.
Right. Data-driven design then. Cool. So I wonder, at which point you guys assess that a change or a major change is needed on your interface?
Well, our users aren't usually very silent. We're lucky enough to have users who we're very close to, and we hear right away from a bunch of our users if we've rolled something out and they're not a fan of something we've done, or they have suggestions on how we can make it better. Because a lot of it also, there's a lot of loss in fidelity. Even when you give people a clickable prototype, right? Mm-hmm. That's great. It's way better than mock-ups ever were. Clickable prototype is infinitely better than that. But there's something even better about, very tactile about using the software when you're doing your day-to-day job. And as much as you may get some user time to do that, you can't get all the users that you want into that type of cycle. And our users are very quick to tell us what they think.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you, Misael. And I'd like to welcome Matt. Matt was able to join us today as well. How you doing, Matt? How are things?
I think he's muted.
I'm doing good, except I have a bit of a cold, so I sound funny.
Okay.
Hi, Matt. Show him his picture, Carlos.
Oh, he's seen it already. He's like, I mean, we were getting ready for, in case you didn't, we're not able to make it.
All right.
And also, Matt, as you know, well, you've seen this as well. This is this Rhino. And I'm here today. I'm in the fourth floor because of the, the connectivity thing that they're working on. They're still working on it, and the site's not pretty today, so that's why I kind of moved this thing. Okay, Matt. Thank you for being here with us as well. We had already, we're already well into the talk, but do you have any questions right now, Matt, or would you rather wait because there's a whole bunch of them right now? But,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. Alrighty. Before we go any further, I'd like to just pause for a second and remind the audience that they can send us their questions. If you're watching this on our either on our YouTube channel or on our website, you can interact with us by clicking on the Be Part of the Conversation prompt, which is on the lower left-hand side of the screen. It says Be Part of the Conversation. Just click there, and it'll take you to a Q&A window where you can type in your questions. We'll read them off to the KiteDesk team, and they'll get answered, and you'll get your response. Alrighty. Okay. What I was there, I have a little it's a combination of a comment and a question for the KiteDesk team, and I hope it's okay. I'll be using the KiteDesk team to refer to the three of you so that I don't have to go through all the names. Okay, and let's see. When you're talking about in data-driven organizations, data-driven organizations routinely use data to inform strategy and decision-making. Although other businesses share the same goal, many of them are still struggling to build the necessary technological capabilities. Why is this? Why is this happening? Or why does this happen, for that matter?
Well, I think we generate a lot of data. If you look at just historically, you look at the last 10 years and how much data is generated on a per-person basis, it goes up exponentially every year. And we're looking at, I'm trying to remember what the last stats were. Something like a family of 4 generates well over 10 gigabytes of data a year for a family of 4, and it's kind of on average. And there's just more and more data. And even, I would contend, even businesses generate a ton of data. Lots of times in the past, that data has been tossed or never captured, but the data has been generated. So an example, a moment ago I described how we capture all of the data for every action a user takes inside of our application. That's a lot of data. I mean, it's in a database scheme, it's many rows. It's a lot that you're ending up storing there. And it's not easy to make sense and intelligently parse, slice, and utilize that data in making business decisions.
So I saw a recent article where people used to think that great salespeople, that they had some sort of magic that they were able to perform to be stronger achievers in sales. And now a lot of it really is science. So being able to review what are the email templates that people are using, which ones perform the best, which email subjects actually get opened more frequently, what is the right time of day to call, what is the best message to open that call with. All of this information is what a data-driven organization will use to drive their sales process and constantly tune. And that's what our tool is there to help them achieve.
So a large part of it is analytics, which is looking at it and seeing what performed well. There's another facet to this as well that a lot of companies have started doing, which is machine learning, which is not just giving it to a user to analyze, but letting the system analyze it and help to make recommendations and decisions for the team as they go. So for instance, Jack mentioned analytics. What subject lines get opened the most often? So when a salesperson is developing an email template, for instance, that they're going to blast out to 5 or 6 targeted customers, that rather than just being something they type in themselves that's manual, you can say, hey, we know this subject line gets a much higher open rate than the subject line you've suggested. Do you want to use it now? So those types of not just analytics, but machine learning and recommendations into software are key for data-driven enterprises.
Like bleeding edge analytics, sort of.
Well, there's a lot of companies doing this today, and it's on the uptick. I mean, basically, companies that aren't doing it today are going to suffer for not doing it. And for the next 5 years, I imagine you're going to see the number of companies that are doing that kind of analytics continuing to grow very rapidly.
Absolutely. Okay. Alrighty. I have something else, but Matt, do you have anything, Matt, ready, or you still want to wait a little bit?
When I get a chance, I like to move the conversation to culture and core values. So I'm looking at looked at the last time we talked, and they feel very familiar. Well, not that. I'm looking at your side, actually. Oh, okay.
We live them. They're right on the wall.
They must be true then.
They must be true, indeed.
So, but no, it's a few of them look very familiar. So, at some point, it doesn't have to be right now. But
okay.
You have other questions, or you want me to jump into that?
Yeah. Well, some people say that becoming a data-driven organization is easy. Would you say it's easy? Would you say it's difficult?
I'd probably err more towards difficult than easy.
Why is that? I mean,
first of all,
most organizations have a glut of data and abilities to collect it.
First, you have to capture the data. Then you got to make sense of the data. And even smart people can look at the same data and come to different outcomes of what they believe that data means. So you still end up having, sometimes the data makes decisions for you. A/B testing. More people clicked this than this. That's very simple kind of ways to analyze the data. But sometimes it gets more complex than that. You can have 2 people looking at data and not agreeing on what that data means to them as an organization. But in terms of whether it's easy or hard to be a data-driven company, I would say a very small percentage of every company out there today is data-driven. It's more prevalent in the tech space, I think. It's prevalent in financial services, insurance, in certain industries. But I think in many types of industries, it's not used at all.
Yeah,
okay.
It's hard for people to give up their opinions.
I'm sorry, what was that, Matt?
I said it's hard for people to give up their opinions, even when the data says otherwise.
Yes, it is. It's nice when the data makes the decision for you, right? When the data can make the decision, that's spectacular. So.
Well, when it agrees with me, then it's fine.
Yep.
One of the reasons that you see the sales organization moving, you often see innovations in software in the sales part of the organization first. CRM moving to the cloud, marketing automation. So a lot of that has to do with the fact that the top end of a company, the revenue generating side of the company, is under the most stress to be analyzed. It's under the most stress to be predictable. And so if you think about a lot of companies right now where they're focusing on outbound lead generation, it's important to their top line number to be able to understand how many people are going to get into the funnel, how many appointments they're going to set a week. And so every activity that one of these people is doing is being analyzed and measured. So that's why you see this sort of shift to data-driven starting in the sales organization.
And it's even more difficult from a usability standpoint too, because you have your users who are saying they want one thing and they do something some way, and then our data may actually show otherwise. So when we're trying to put together some of our experiences, we kind of have to sift out that information versus what the users are asking for or saying that they would normally do as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm sure everybody that's ever done software here has experienced the issue of a user saying, yep, we really want this, we want it this way, and this is how it should look. And then you build that, and you walk through that whole thing, and then ultimately you roll it out and you test it, and they really don't like it that way. So, very common problem in software development.
Yes, indeed. I would like to explore more that notion that you guys are mentioning about machine learning to anticipate the user needs. So in your case, being your product about prospectations, how do you guys are implementing this machine learning notion to your product right now?
So we're not using even a fraction of the data we've got today. So we're a very small company. We're about 20 people, and we make use of some of that through machine learning and analytics. But we have a wealth of data today that we just haven't had the resources to even start to take advantage of. But it's beautiful when you look at the future and where we can head with it. Machine learning. Are you asking from a technical front, or are you asking from a usability front? On what context are you talking about that?
I would say using machine learning to anticipate what your users are expecting to accomplish on your interface. Perhaps it's just a recommendation here, a suggestion here, or a task completed for them before they even know they need it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a great point. One of the things that we look at, there's a few ways to think of machine learning. One piece of what we're doing is actually a scoring algorithm. And a way that manifests to the user is recommendations about what's most important for them potentially to accomplish in a day in terms of activity. So by their instinct, they may think that making 30 cold calls in the afternoon is going to be the best thing for them to do. By the machine learning, it may indicate to them that the best thing for them to do is respond to these 3 emails, follow this person on social network, tweet to them this content. So there is this whole difference between what the machine will tell them that they should go do and what their instinct says they should go do. And that's right where we're focused.
Particularly in industries like sales, if you think about it, right? Because sales is often thought of as more art than science. And so, a salesperson thinks they will implicitly know what the right next step is that they should be doing, and sometimes the machine will disagree with what they're saying. You can look at evaluate it, look at what's been successful, and as Jack said, they may think they should call next, and instead what they should do is follow on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So, I have one other question, and this is more for James. When he talked about the iterations and the process that you follow to keep iterating until the product is at its best. So I wonder about that. How many iterations do you guys usually do, or how do you know when it's time to cut it here and just put it out in the market and test it with real users?
There's we have a couple different cycles that are kind of happening all at the same time. So we have our ongoing changes through hot fixes and improvements through user feedback for features that are already existing. And then we also have new features that we're starting to implement and roll out. And what we'll do is, again, we'll go with that initial process of our product manager or our product director going and gathering some initial information and data about the specific task at hand. And we will go out and we'll brainstorm and we'll build out an interface. trying to capture all of the little nuances that we can for that. And then what we'll do is we'll build that and roll it out to the users. And then once we start getting user feedback on that, we'll iterate on it again through our hotfix process or through some other through some other longer term cycle.
Right.
We iterate a lot internally. I mean, there's a lot of internal iterations. I mean, James will do something up. He'll work with Karen, our product manager, on it. And then Jack and I will get involved, and you get a lot of iterations because you end up having a lot of different experiences that hey, we've seen users do this before and that before, and how does it all fit in? So a lot of internal iterations, before we even reach the point of being ready to go through user testing.
So, for instance, we just started a new feature yesterday. So, majority of yesterday and then majority of today was spent working on static mockups for that, and we've already done a lot of internal reviews on that. I think we've had 3 meetings for that already in the last 2 days, and then tomorrow we'll have another slightly larger review with the rest of the product team, and we're hoping to have that out to users for review through clickable mockups or clickable prototypes, probably by the end of the week or early next week, and then that'll go into development sometime next week.
Right. Now that you guys are talking about your product team, can you tell us about how that product team is composed of? I mean, how many people are on the product team currently?
So we have 3 in product management and design. I believe we have 4 in development. Is that right?
Yeah, but he's talking about the actual product teams, not just the whole. Are you talking about like the whole engineering organization, or just the team that's involved in product definition and usability?
The latter, yeah, the product definition of it.
I'm sorry.
So there's 3 of us right now. We've got Karen, our product director. We have Jan, our product manager, and myself. So Karen and Jan do a lot of the user research and requirements gathering, as well as initial usability design. And occasionally I will be doing a little bit of usability design from some of the requirements that they send over. And then the majority of my focus is on UI design and interactions.
Yeah. I mentioned this because what we have discovered in the past is that when you do research or when you are doing activities such as usability testing or mockups even, it's great to have everybody integrated on those activities at some point, because that, for us, it helps to bring everybody on the same set of ideas, so everybody knows what we are building.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still a pretty small team, but one interesting thing that James did on our last major design effort was he actually created videos of a design that didn't actually exist yet. So he actually created the mock-ups and then animated them, created a video, and we basically pulled together influencers, current customers, and prospects onto 6 different meetings, and we took them through a positioning doc, and then we took them through those videos and let them give us feedback on the user experience before we even really got very far into the process. So it was a way of helping the whole company set a vision on where we're going to be going with the product, built around that user experience.
And even though you know that vision isn't going to be ultimately what you end up rolling out, because you'll go through usability testing and you'll see dramatic changes when you actually get to usability testing, at least conceptually everybody's on the same page of what the goals and objectives are for that product, that solution, and those areas of focus.
Right.
If you were to compare those videos, which we did several months ago, they were winding up with UI, I think they're actually, I would say that they're probably 70% still about the same. So it's probably 30 to 40% shift, but
well, for some things,
well.
Certainly for some things we're there. Some we weren't as close, but some we were pretty close and some we were pretty far.
But some value in that process.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I read a while ago about this notion of problem-solution paradox, and it's really interesting. Let me tell you a little bit of it. It basically is that you cannot think of solutions until you understand the problem. But once you generate a solution, you will start to seeing new aspects of the problem that you were trying to solve. So the solution changes the problem, and then the problem changes a new solution, and you can You can start, or you can get lost in a sea of iterations.
Oh,
but in the end,
absolutely.
Yeah. But in the end, I believe software products is just like that. It's never finished, and you are always learning, or at some moment even the market will change. So how do you guys couple with this notion? Your product will never be finished because it will start changing with time, over time.
That's part of doing software. I mean, I think if you're a software company and you reach the point where you go, we're done, the product's perfect, you should close up shop because you don't understand what you're delivering at that point.
Exactly. Good thing that we have a name for it. At least everybody's experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, I've talked to people who open the conversation by saying, well, our software is mostly done. And at that point, I start to put the phone down very slowly. So, yeah.
Yeah, the world is not a static place.
It's more like climbing a really big hill. You get a little bit further up, and you see a little bit further, and then you know you got to go a little bit further more.
Yep.
So,
Alrighty. Misael, is you done with your questions?
He's never done.
He's never done. Yeah, that would surprise me. I'd be surprised if he were, but just I thought I would ask. Okay, Misael. Well, thank you. If I know that there are going to be more, but what I want to let me go back to Matt. Matt, what about you? Do you have any other questions before I jump in and with my own?
What I mentioned before, I'm looking here at the culture and core values, and they feel very familiar to our own values and culture. But I particularly like the one about we admit that we are wrong. Yeah, like that one time we thought we were mistaken, and that's obviously okay. But I think that's great. Could you tell us more about the culture you're trying to build, what you built so far, and where you're going with this?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Why is it important to bring it up so early in the game?
Well, being a small company, you've gotta all be driven together towards the same goals and the same objectives, and it's critically important. Jack and I have done a bunch of startups. We've worked together, at different startups for 20 years, and you start to, and our other partner, Sean Burke, who's our CEO, again, done lots of startups. And you realize the challenges that come from startups, which are you've got to share the same objectives and how you get things done, and you have to share some personality traits as well when you're really early on in this. And for us, there's a reason humor is the number one up here that we have in kind of our values, because implicitly at a startup, you work a lot, you work hard, and there's a lot of stress that goes into being in a startup. And for us, a big outlet for that stress is humor. And anybody that works at KiteDesk will tell you we work hard and we play hard as well, and we joke around a lot, but when it's time to deliver, we deliver. And we really live by our corporate values, and it's just what drives us. And this has really been, it's funny because these developed pretty organically at the company.
Yeah, I think things like creativity and humor were near the top of the list because there's always creative ways to solve any problem, whether you're creative in your role or creative as a developer, creative as a creative person. Any role you have, there's really room for creativity in the way that you solve the challenges that you're trying to address, whether you're your own or your customer. And then Jared mentioned humor. Transparency was very important for us because we really wanted to avoid having any type of a political culture. And so if you kind of add all of these up, you'll see that they generally drive towards organization that focuses on individual responsibility, but at the same time collaboration, so that we're all here to work together. And the transparency part of it is to make sure that we don't create an environment where people are not addressing challenges head on with each other. So it helps to, I think we talked a little bit about this before, it helps to make it so that our organization doesn't have to have as much hierarchy, because each individual person that's maintaining these these core values is more of a self-managed individual on the team.
Yeah, and we chatted last time with Matt about your organization and how you're basically a non-hierarchical organization, and that's fascinating. We have certain challenges being a traditional kind of venture capital-backed company, But we almost live. I wouldn't say we're flat, but we're very close to flat. Because every idea gets challenged here and goes through the ringer to make sure it's the right idea. There's nobody at this company, CEO, me, Jack, it doesn't matter who it is, nobody goes, this is the way we're going to do things and doesn't get challenged. Everything is an idea. It's a vetting process. It gets tested through the crucible of question and answers. What did you think through? That's the only way you end up with a really good solution and really good ideas, is to vet them and to go through rigorous process of challenge and answer.
Yeah, I thought that was very remarkable of you guys to do that. Not every, you'd be surprised. Not every startup you would think, it's a new company, younger people, they would tend to go in this direction, but many of them are very traditional. They're what I call 19th century companies. I mean, they organize like any traditional 19th century company. So, yeah, it's commendable, and I wanted to bring that up.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and a lot of us are very kind of libertarian, I guess would be the term. I mean, we all like to, everybody's got their view, and you don't try to squash anybody's view and what comes up. You listen to everything and let everybody comment and challenge as they desire.
Yeah. Creativity comes from being playful and feeling safe, and all these elements make that happen. The humor, transparency, even the individual responsibility is part of feeling safe. You know what you're signed up for, and you know you can do it, or at least you're going to try very hard to do it, etc. So yeah, I applaud you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise for you guys. I love the flat organization stuff. It's tempting. I look at it, I'm like, boy, what would it take for us to implement something like that here? But that's a battle for another day.
Yeah. Yeah, you should probably do it for a while before you tell your board, oh, by the way, we eliminated the titles. It's like, wait a minute, who's responsible here? Who am I going to fire? Yeah. They like to fire people.
It's forgiveness, not for permission, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So, back to you, Carlos.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Matt. And let me go back to my set of questions. Well, here's the deal. Before I jump into the question that I have, which is it has to do more with my role here at Nearsoft in business development and such, but going back specifically to your chosen topic, again, data-driven enterprise solutions, a generational shift in business tools. When you send me the info to use on our website, the little paragraph that I requested, you mentioned specifically the following: how highly focused user experiences, cross-cutting integrations, and scalable backend services drive a new class of business solutions. How do you mesh all these three items together in order to come up with a new class of business solutions?
You want to take it?
Sure. So on the user interface side, we've mentioned a few of these elements along the way, but I'll reiterate. So part of our reason for being when we first founded the company was we wanted to make it so that every person in an organization, but especially the sales team, had access to the information that they needed in the context that they needed it at the right time, that was highly personalized for what they were doing, and that in any case possible automated the work that they were doing manually. That was sort of the mantra for the creation of KiteDesk. There's a personalized cloud experience that was there to improve the way that people work in the enterprise. And so a big portion of that is the back-end data integration. So if you start from that layer, we built integration layers to many of the applications that most companies, most enterprises, most businesses use. Email, social, CRM, marketing automation. We built those adapters, built that integration, and built a layer on top of it that allowed us to achieve the goals that we set out to in terms of bringing all that information together, automating the flow of information between different services, automating the tasks that people were doing manually, and focusing information for them in the context that they needed it. And so as we applied that to the sales tool space, it really became important that in our user experience that we'd be able to deliver it wherever a salesperson was working. So we went after a hybrid approach where we have a Chrome extension or a browser extension that works in the tools that they already work with. It may be out on a social network, it may be out on a website, it may be inside of their CRM. They can pop open their KiteDesk window and see something that looks just like what they would see in our web application, gives them information about the people and the companies that they're trying to do business with that they can't get without switching between different apps. And that was one big part of our focus. And then we also built our web app. So ultimately, it was a combination of both the user experience, the backend integrations, and the way that we deliver it to market that was set up to try to achieve those goals.
Let me give you a concrete set of examples.
Sure, please.
So a good example is a sales rep will often look in the CRM, so they'll look in Salesforce.com or some other CRM to understand, hey, I've got this account that's in there that I'm working. But if you think about it, often there will be emails that are sent that never get recorded to the CRM. There'll be calendar events that get scheduled. There'll be files that get shared. There'll be all kinds of auxiliary things that are done in different systems of record. You use Exchange or you use Google Apps, and these have a whole different set of information that is relevant to that customer you're looking at in the CRM. But today, you just can't see that information in the CRM, yet it's all relevant to the context of the salesperson doing their job. So implicitly, you need to pull information from many places to display it all to the rep at one time to give them the picture of what they should be doing in their job. What Jack also talked about was making that available where they do their work. So let's say you're in a browser window and you open up Salesforce. KiteDesk decorates Salesforce and shows certain information in Salesforce because we use an extension to decorate it that can show you all the things that weren't manually put into Salesforce. So while I'm looking at Salesforce, I see this customer's there. I click a button. Now I see all the emails that were sent by me or anybody else at my organization relevant to that customer. I see calendar invites that were scheduled. I see files that were shared. I see all the data that's really necessary. Does that make sense? Answer the...
Yeah, absolutely.
Question?
Yeah, it sure did, definitely. And okay, and I have one more. As data-driven organizations, probably you know this, but have extended the use of data across everyday business functions. What I'd like to ask you is if a company is serious about the use of data, should they resort to or hope that executives or the managers or whoever just will use business intelligence, or should the companies train employees, for example, to make the systems easier to use or mandatory to use the systems? How would you say that it would work best?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Yes, I mean, so it's interesting. In a way, KiteDesk, the way we bring it to market, is in some cases a bottom-up strategy, right? So an individual SDR, maybe one of the newest employees in the company, can go and start using KiteDesk without really any additional friction in their process. They don't need a manager's approval. They don't need to go and get anything installed into their enterprise, and they can, in effect, be a data-driven employee and an army of one when it comes to that, right? And the other ways that we sell, we're actually starting at the sales management level and then working our way down. So it's tough to say which way is better, but I don't know which will wind up happening more often. Tough question.
And that's very specific to the line of business that we're in. It sounded like your question might have been general as well, like how could any business start to be more data-driven? And that's a real challenging question because it's going to depend on the business itself and how they operate and what their objectives are. As we mentioned at the beginning of this, I think data-driven and kind of data capture, very, very well adopted in certain industry segments, and yet in some industry segments it's not at all. And I think over time you're going to see more and more of those spinning up. I think that it's the natural evolution of it will change also because all of the services that we all use have, those are driven by software in most cases. You're using Outlook, you're using, Google, you're using Twitter, you're using LinkedIn, you're using all these services. They're all built to integrate now. Just about all of them support some variant of OAuth for connectivity, permission-based models to capture and leverage data. And so I think the capability is out there for most companies that want to do it, and the software that they use is geared to be able to do it. And now you're seeing that was kind of the first layer of the data-driven enterprise, which is make everything able to connect. And then the next layer is you're seeing companies like KiteDesk and a slew of others that are, now we're bringing that data to you the way you want it to be there. And so I think the software industry is driving that even for non-tech companies.
I see. Okay. And in the case, for example, of a software as a service company, would you say that the ability of a software as a service company to compete effectively depends on its ability to leverage data?
For many, yes. I can't quantitatively say all, but definitely for a large percentage of business solutions that are out there. I mean, even look at social network solutions, right? On LinkedIn, you can add your Twitter account, and you can add your Facebook account. You know, even in social media, it's already built as an integration platform for those things, and I think that's going to continue to move up the stack.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Matt, let me go back to you. Do you have any questions for you, Misael?
Yeah, I had a question because I didn't understand the example that they just gave about you know, the newest salesman can sign up and start using it themselves. So that means that there's no integration, and I mean, this thing just knows how to get data out of Gmail and other tools like that, or how I mean, physically, how does it work?
Yeah, it reinforces part of what Jared was saying, is that most applications are built to be integrated now. So KiteDesk leverages that. When somebody logs in with their Salesforce account, we now have the ability to integrate their Salesforce data. When they log in with their email account, we have the ability to access and integrate their email information.
Okay.
And their social networks, right? So each individual employee or person generally has the ability to log into those systems, and that gives KiteDesk the ability to let them leverage all that information in our tool.
And all today is OAuth. So for instance, if you're using Google, you have OAuth. You're using Salesforce, you have OAuth. You know, Office 365, you've got OAuth. I mean, just the Twitter, I mean, every one of these, you've got an integration capability as an individual that you don't need some big corporate integration done to be able to get all this data in one place.
But you must be doing something else, because you mentioned that you decorate Salesforce. That means doing something to the user or around the user interface that I don't think they have an API for, right?
Actually, this is done in the browser level. So if you look at the browsers,
okay.
you look at Chrome, you look at Firefox, they all have plugins that you can do and extensions you can do that let you manipulate the HTML as it's rendered to show something on top, to basically add a layer on top of the page to render additional information.
I got it. That's very clear.
Okay, thank you, Matt, and for your question, and thank you, Jack. I'm sorry, Jared. Misael, how are you doing with the questions? We still have we're about to we're approaching the final minutes of today's talk, so we still have about 10 minutes. So I don't know if you have any questions. Now is the time. Go ahead.
I do have one final question, and this is regarding context. I see that your product takes into account like many contexts that the user will be using your product in. So how do you guys understand or make sure that you account for all of these contexts affecting your product and your users?
Well, I don't think you can ever account for all contexts, right? but you account for the most common ones. So good examples of this are kind of what we mentioned before about what page they're on in the browser, right? So if they're on Salesforce, you've got a certain context that's there to utilize. There's also lots of things you can do that we do automatically through the extensions to bring data to them. We scan pages as they load, and every time there's an email address on the page, we basically take that email address and we find in our solution, the server, what might be related to that email address that this user has access to that they'll need, and then we render that information for them. So think about the web. There's a ton of contextual information in every page on the web that someone goes to, even down to the URL line. We know you're on acme.com. We know acme.com is the domain of one of the customers that you have inside your CRM, so we're going to render for you the appropriate information when you get there as a context. So there's some contexts that are very implicit that you can garner from reading pages, and then a lot of it is getting to know your target user. So we know, as Jack said, our solution is targeted towards sales development reps and business development reps, so BDRs and SDRs. We know what they do every day and how they go about doing it, at least from the very broad sense of the word. So it becomes a lot easier to render the right contextual information as they need it, based on knowing what their job is.
Right. Thank you.
Anything to add?
Thank you, Lisa.
Back to you, Carlos.
Back to you, Carlos. I like that. It's kind of like the news, like a news anchor. Okay.
Well, I have go ahead, Carlos.
No, that's fine. Please, by all means.
What was I going to say? I lost my thread. Oh, no, I know. When you were talking about the different contexts, so that data is also pulled into the analytics as well, right? So it's not just user interface and all that, but when you calculate analytics and you tell me that it's better to spend time on Twitter than to email something, that's all coming from data that you've gathered based on my user account, on my authorization, right?
Lots of it, yes.
Okay.
And also based on activities, right? So the job of an SDR and a BDR is to reach out to target accounts or target prospects to whom they wish to sell and figure out if they're a qualified prospect or not.
Right.
We look at all of that as we go about making those decisions and pulling in the analytics for the data.
So today's sales, but I imagine that once you have the platform, targeting something else wouldn't be, some other area wouldn't be that big a deal, right?
You mean another area of the business other than sales?
I'm sorry?
You mean another area of the business other than sales?
Yeah.
We hear that pretty often, actually. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some that cross-cut that I think would be very applicable, but there's others that might not be. I don't think we've done any detailed analysis of that ourselves, other than roles that are very adjacent to the SDR and BDR to determine where those could fit. But maybe there's broader context as well. I'm not sure.
Well, product service is one, or customer service is one that occurred to me that would be very similar. It's the same idea of, should you be calling people back, or should you be answering by email, or there's just a zillion things that they do throughout the day.
Yep, support is definitely one of the adjacent spaces where it's pretty easy to figure out where we could be valuable.
Okay. Back to you, Carlos.
Okay. Thank you.
And the weather is.
And the weather is. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up the broadcast for today. And finally, one of the things what I would like to ask you finally, the three of you, the whole KiteDesk team, is a very general. It's not really a question; it's just like a request. If you were to tell data-driven software as a service companies or software companies what you consider to be let's say the top 3 traits that they should nurture in order to stand out against their competitors, what would you tell them?
We're going to do 3. I'll throw out 1. So we early on we had the great opportunity to sit with SDR teams here in Tampa, where we're located, to basically listen to their problems before we built any software. We basically just got them to came in with some pizza, put a team of 20 people in a room, listen to their challenges. And so I think that's true across all software, right? To be able to hear from your target audience before you go off and do a lot of building of software. But that was definitely, I think, a key point for us to be able to understand this space.
Yep, I would add capture everything. All of the data that you can capture it, right? So capturing clicks, capturing what users do in your software, capturing actions that, these are more kind of, these aren't necessarily things that are on record in other places already. It's not like you're grabbing an email or you're grabbing a CRM record. Capture more data, capture things that you're not sure you'll ever be able to use. Just capture it, because at some point you'll find a way to utilize it. There's just opportunities will come, and you'll, at some point in the future, you may wish you had captured something, and if you didn't, the opportunity has passed you by. If you do capture it, then you can utilize it.
And to touch on what Jared was saying, being open to change, I think, is also important across multiple aspects. One being based on data, one being based on user requests, one based on your actual performance of your application, and any other types of ideas that are coming into the organization as well.
Great, great. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That definitely, I'm sure that those three elements are going to be of great use to our viewers. If among the viewers we can find someone who is actively involved in this software as a service company. And okay, gentlemen, the only thing left for me to say is that I really appreciate your having agreed to be here with us today. I know that last time we had that particular glitch, and maybe it took some rearranging of your schedules. And that's pretty much it for today. I mean, the only thing is I need your postal address to ship you this, and this is going to be one of the items I'll be sending you. The other ones are just, there's small tokens of appreciation, but I'm not going to spoil the surprise because these are going to be in a package that we'll be shipping to you on Monday. So we're going to be in touch for that. Again, thank you, Misael, and thank you, Matt, for being here. You're definitely priceless as co-hosts. So thank you again, and thank you, Jared, Jack, and James. I really appreciate your time today, and I look forward to being in touch with you. One more thing is that, as you know, this episode is being recorded, so we'll create a personalized page for you to use, which I'll send the link to you in a couple of hours, and you can use it at your leisure and convenience. And thank you, the viewers, also, and you know the drill. It's all going to be in our website. And that's pretty much it. I hope you have a great day, and we're going to be in touch. Gentlemen, all, thank you so much again for being here. One more episode of Dojo Live.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.